Hey folks, my name is Dr.B the Chemi, and today what we're going to be up to is a little at-home science demonstration with soap in the comfort of your own home. So for the activity for today, what we're going to need are a few different items. So to start, we're going to need some dish soap, we're going to need a bowl or a plate, or if you happen to be lucky enough to have a glass petri dish, we're going to use that. And then also we're going to need a toothpick or a utensil like a plastic knife or a spoon or a fork, whatever you have available. Again, we're trying to make this as flexible as possible for you to do in the comfort of your own home. Now, in addition to those three items I listed, we're also going to need a couple of other items, and those are for two different options of what you can do at home. So option A is you're going to need some water, like the one I have in this bowl, as well as some red pepper flakes or some black pepper flakes. Either one is fine. And for option B, what you're going to need is some form of milk. I've got almond milk here. And you'll also need some food coloring. All right? And with all those ingredients, you're all set to try this at-home activity. So we're going to take our red pepper flakes, and today we're going to add them to our bowl of water. All right, we're going to make sure we get quite a few of them in here. All right, excellent. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our dish soap, and I'm just going to put it on this paper towel just so that we have a little bit available for us. Okay, and next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip the tip of my knife, or the bottom of my knife, just a little bit into the dish soap. And now I'm just going to pick some spot. Let's go for the center, and let's see what happens after I add this little bit of soap. Whoa, look at that. That's pretty cool, right? Okay, so again, just to recap, after I added that dish soap, we saw that all the pepper flakes spread out very quickly from the center where I applied the dish soap, which is really cool and exciting. And now we're going to try this with the milk and food coloring. So now we're going to move on to option B, which is where we're going to take our milk. I've got almond milk in this case, but you can use any form of milk. That's no problem. And now we're also going to be using our food coloring. And the reason I want to use milk instead of water this time around with my food coloring is I want to provide a nice contrast between the food coloring and the milk. And that's something that you won't necessarily be able to see if you use the water. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a few drops of my food coloring to different locations of my petri dish. Right, and hopefully what we're going to see this time around is the same thing that we saw earlier with our red pepper flakes, where as I add the soap to my petri dish or my bowl, I'm going to have a very rapid spreading of my, in this case, my food coloring. All right, and so I think I've got enough. Yeah, I think I've got enough food coloring here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more soap. And now I'm going to dip the end of my knife into the soap, and we're going to let it run. We're going to apply to one of the spots with the food coloring. Oh my goodness, and look at that. See all this really quick spreading, and now there's a lot of color that's just flooding the entire system, which is really cool and exciting. And I'm not stirring this at all. All I'm doing is letting the soap do all the work for me, which is really cool and exciting. And that's why I like this option a little bit more than when you use the red pepper flakes and the water. But I want to help you out and be as accommodating as I can with materials you can use at home to do the same demonstration that I'm doing. Right now I had a large glob of soap that just dumped into my petri dish, and you still see all this rapid spreading going on, which is really cool. So what we just saw is that right after we added that little bit of dish soap to the pepper flakes and the water, as well as to the food coloring in the milk, is this rapid spreading. And so you're wondering, why does dish soap do that? How is that possible? Right? And so all of that stems from something called surface tension. And surface tension is how likely a liquid is to interact with air. And so every liquid has a different surface tension. And for example, water has a very high surface tension. It doesn't really like to interact with air, compared to other liquids like olive oil and vegetable oil, which have much lower surface tensions. And so what ends up happening is that when you add a little bit of dish soap to water, is that you reduce that surface tension. You allow the water to be a little bit more willing to interact with the air. And by causing this change in surface tension, what ends up happening is that you now have changed the surface of the water so that there are some regions that have a lower surface tension than others. And what happens to the surface is that the surface doesn't want that. It doesn't like to have different surface tensions throughout the entire surface. And what it's going to do is it's going to spread that soap everywhere to all parts of the surface so that it can go back to having a uniform surface tension across the entire surface. And so what we just witnessed is that process of the surface trying to return back to a normal surface tension. And so that process is actually called Marangoni flow. The really cool thing about Marangoni flow and that little demonstration you got to do at home is that that actually is being used in real life. Like, scientists and doctors are actually taking advantage of that process to develop new therapeutic drugs to help people with a wide range of diseases. So one example of that is cystic fibrosis, which is an autoimmune disease where there's an excess buildup of mucus in the lungs. And normally patients who have this disease need to inhale their drug so that that drug is delivered to specific parts of the lung that are clogged with mucus. Now, one of the challenges in this whole drug delivery process is that normally when you inhale your air, the air wants to travel in the path of least resistance. So if the air has to choose between going down a path that has a lot of mucus that's going to get in the way of the air versus a clean part of the lung that has no mucus, the air normally is going to choose that clean pathway. And so that's a really big challenge of just getting the drug to the mucus dense areas. So what ends up happening is that scientists and doctors are now starting to add safe, non-toxic, soap-like particles into the drugs that they're prescribing to their patients. So that now when the patient inhales that drug, they're able to, when they inhale it, the drug is now able to, when it lands in the mucus dense area, that drug's going to spread to more regions of the lung. And by doing that, you're able to help the patients better handle that cystic fibrosis, that autoimmune disease, which is really exciting and really cool that you got to do the same, you got to apply the same concepts that are being used to help a lot of people. So that's all the science I have for today. And so I hope you have a wonderful day, great week, and stay tuned for more Dr. B the Chem videos.